Shalom Israel first. I want to give all praise and glory honor to Yahweh by Shemel Shai by Shemel Kodash. I want to see Apostle Elsgra Millstone, peace and taste from 1/3 of Israel. And for this lesson, I want to title it, damn, I don't even have a title yet. I ain't gonna lie, it slipped my mind. But, really just going into how we want an eternal name in the kingdom. Fuck this temporary, famous shit here in Babylon. People know you, blah, blah, blah. But, they know you for talent. For example, like singing or playing basketball or football or sports or, some bullshit that don't mean anything at the end of the day. What we're doing right now is we're fighting for an eternal, we're fighting for a crown. All right, at the end of the day, salvation. And with salvation comes, an eternal name, being remembered. All right. And best believe the Lord, he's going to exalt his men, beginning with Yahweh Shai, beginning with Yahweh Bashmi Shai first and foremost. All right. But as scripture says in Romans, we going to be, if we suffer with the Lord, we're going to also be glorified with him. All right. So that's what people don't, that's what people fail to realize. Like, these people in the world, you may be able to dribble, dunk a basketball or catch a ball, football, or knock a nigga out. But at the end of the day, that shit is vanity. Because when all hell breaks loose, that's all bread and circuses, That's all entertainment. But when all hell breaks loose, you can't watch that. You can't get paid for this shit no more. Then what? Like, where do you stand? Where do you stand with the Lord in that day? All right, and that's what people fail to realize. But I'm gonna read Sirach 44 and kind of skim on down. This is Sirach 44:1. Let us now praise famous men and our fathers that begat us. The Lord has wrought great glory by them through his great power from the beginning. And mind you, how it specifies the Lord. The Lord ain't dealing with these niggas in the world. The Lord gave them a talent, but they're just playing their role. Their lot. If it's not in Yahweh Bashmi Shai, it's vain. Simply put, it says, such as did bear rule in their kingdoms, men renowned for their power, giving counsel by their understanding and declaring prophecies, leaders of the people by their counsels and by their knowledge of learning, meet for the people, wise and eloquent are their instructions, such as found out musical tunes and recited verses and writing, rich men furnished for the ability, living peaceably in their habitations. All these were honored in their generations and were the glory of their times. There be of them that have left a name behind them, that their praises might be reported. And that's what we want. Scripture says, let me get that. Is it? Nah. Let's type in precious. There you go. Ecclesiastes 7:1. A good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. All right. And, really just going, driving the point home that, we trying to build up a good name for the kingdom to come, Because one, we not working to be peons in the kingdom. We working to be gods in the kingdom, elites in the kingdom. We want to be ruling shit in the kingdom. Moving things around, under Yahweh Shai. Lord willing, part of 144,000. All right. But we don't look to just be a common folk in the kingdom. We look to be a God. All right. And that's the mindset you should have. All right. But these people in the world, Jake in the world, this is all they see. All right. It says, there be of them that have left a name behind them, that their praises might be reported. And some there be which have no memorial, who are perished, as though they had never been, and are become as though they had never been born, and their children after them. They're not remembered, And really what sparked this lesson, I was watching the game with my pops, and, we would know this one person from one of the NBA teams and whatnot. And, niggas act Hollywood and shit like that. And I was telling him, like, then what? You know, you labored. What's that scripture in? Let me get it. This is their mindset. 1 Corinthians 9 and 24. It says, "Know ye not that they which run in a race run all, but one receive the prize, so run that ye may obtain. And everyone that striveth for the mastery is temperate in all things." Here's their mindset. Now they do it to obtain a corruptible crown, but we an incorruptible. They want to be remembered in this world. They want to be, I want to be MVP of this, organization ran by Esau. Or I want to be, this, that, and third. And that's just all vanity. Because when you pass, then what? You're forgotten. But when you have a good name in Yahweh Shemi Shai, you're always remembered. For example, look at the men of old. All right, the Lord has bestowed upon them glory and a name to remember, and generations upon generations are remembered. And look at generations of old, like the Roman days, right? Name me a gladiator. You don't know gladiator names. Give me like 3 gladiator names, famous gladiator names that were I guess that were well famous. You don't remember. It's the same shit. And in the world to come, you're not gonna be remembered how good how fast you ran a fucking 40-yard dash. None of that shit matters. All right, this is all bread and circuses. All right, and that's what we gotta remember. What we're fighting for is an eternal kingdom. We're fighting for an everlasting glory. We're fighting to be remembered. All right. I'm not, ultimately, it's more than that, but that comes with it. All right. It says, let me just go back to Sirach 44. It says, 10, it says, "But these are merciful men whose righteousness had not been forgotten." And these niggas in the world, you got to be a wicked ass nigga to make it in this world. Remember that. All right. It says, "With their seed shall continually remain a good inheritance, and their children are within the covenant." All right. It says, "Righteousness had not been forgotten." All right. So these men were I believe there's a scripture on that, renowned. Okay, never mind. So I believe it's never mind. We just read that. Let's look at that word renown, actually. Renown. Renown, fame or glory attaching to a person, reputation, especially a good reputation. So let me reread that. "Such as did bear rule in their kingdoms, men, famous for the power, giving counsel by their understanding and declaring prophecies." And a good scripture that goes with this is this one. All right, Daniel 12 and 3. All right, because there's a reward at the end of the day. All right, what we doing? We fuck it. We can be called scrubs and the bottom of the barrel in this world, and that's how it's supposed to be. All right, if Yahushua was rejected in this world, are we not supposed to be rejected as well? Scripture says the servant is not greater than his master. So if the Lord suffered, we gotta suffer it. All right. But it says Daniel 12 and 3 says, "And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever." All right. So there's a great reward. All right. I'm gonna look at the word wise. Oh, hold on. Let me read the NLT. That's part. Daniel 12 and 3. It says, those who are wise will shine bright as the sky, and those who lead many to righteousness will shine like the stars forever. Wait, hold up. Where did that? Those who have insight. Those who have insight. Prudent, be circumspect, wisely. The teachers, the wise. All right, ultimately the elect. All right, because the elect are the ones teaching this truth, you know. But look at the stars. A Messiah, brothers, youth, numerous progeny, personification, Most High's ominous, omniscience, I can't even say it. Yeah, I ain't gonna say that one, bro. All right, but it says generally of single stars. All right, but it says of Messiah, brothers. All right, and you know, when you read that scripture, you got to read this one right here. Romans, is it 8? Romans 8, and there you go, 17. Romans 8 and 17, it says, and if children, then heirs of the Most High, and joint heirs with Yahushua, if so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together. For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. All right, so, you know, we going through the trenches right now. You know, we catching hell. You know, we laying low until the Lord boosts us up. All right, because Scripture says that many that are first shall be last, and the last shall be first. All right, roughly paraphrasing. So it's gonna be a major flip coming. All right, and you niggas in the world that got your what's the word, consolation. You know, your riches here. That shit ain't gonna mean nothing. That's why Scripture says, well, let's get that charge. Well, this is a good one. 1 Timothy 6 and 17. Charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded. You know, and Jake, you know, they get a few dollars, they proud off the wall. They forget that they in captivity. You know, they forget that, you know, they under these curses. It says, nor trust in uncertain riches. And our people, they trust in these uncertain riches, you know. Ain't so much as that they want this shit to continue, you know. But in the living power who giveth us richly all things to enjoy. It says, yeah, you know, I'll just stop it there. But, you know, that's why Scripture says, give me neither poverty nor riches. You know, you just want to have enough to get by, so that way you can focus on the work of Yahweh Shemi outside. Because, you know, being rich, that could be a stumbling block unto you. All right? Because, you know, you start, you start bullshitting, you know, you get lackadaisical, comfortable here, all right? But, you know, that's not what we want, all right? Now, you know, every brother's life is different. You know, some brothers may have money, some brothers, you know, more than others. Obviously, we all poor at the end of the day. But, bunch of niggas out here. But, you know, ultimately, this ain't our rest. You know, we ain't seeking to establish ourselves here. We ain't seeking to you know, be famous here. You know, we seeking to be gods in the next earth. You know, the next kingdom to come. You know, it's gonna be the same earth. You know, but it's gonna be restored. But yeah. So, you know, hopefully, you know, this lesson was edifying, well said. You know, just a little quick topic. You know, that was on my mind. You know, we seeking for a righteous, an eternal legacy. All right, we're not fighting for a temporary crown and name here in Babylon, because all this shit gonna get destroyed. So with that, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. Want to give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh by Shemi outside, by Shemi Kakodash. Next time, shalom.